Danielle, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. It's an honor.
So, first of all, you have a very interesting background. I have to know, is there a story between going from working at Calvin Klein to getting into life coaching? Because that seems like a big shift.
Yeah, it really was a big shift. And yes, there is a story. My childhood dream was to become a fashion designer. I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska originally, and I dreamed to move to New York and do fashion. And so that's what I did. And I worked in fashion for 6 years, and it was very fulfilling in so many ways. But then at some point, I looked at the design director, I looked at the life of working your way up in the fashion world, and I just realized, yeah, this isn't for me. I can feel it. There's something more. And I got really big into personal growth and more personal growth books back then, like The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks and some of those. And I just got really passionate about it. And finally, I actually interestingly used law of attraction to manifest that dream life. So right when I got to New York, it was everything. All the odds were stacked against me. As 2009, the job market had just crashed. So, not to mention, I didn't have any fashion schools on my resume. So, in fashion, it's a big deal to have a fashion school on there. I had University of Nebraska Lincoln, which actually had a good program for fashion, but not like your elite fashion schools. And so, I used the law of attraction. I remembered from within, I was like, yes, I know this works. I would introduce myself as a fashion designer to people I would go out and meet with and all these things. I did all the little preparation work to then manifest a job at Calvin Klein. I wanted to work for one of the most well-known brands in America because I thought that'd be so cool. And I wanted the real fashion experience at that point because in my previous job, it was just different. It was like mass production. I wanted that real, what in the movies.
Glamorous side of fashion.
I wanted all of that, especially being from Lincoln, Nebraska, where it's just not like that. So then I manifested it. I also manifested a beautiful apartment in Soho, which no one thought I could do. It was my own little Soho studio. I loved it. And with all the great shopping around, all the things that my 26-year-old would love. And I did love it. I got all of these things, right? And going out on the weekends, getting through the red ropes, visualizing myself getting through the red ropes, getting to these cool clubs. And I had a blast with it. But at some point, I remember sitting on my bed and just questioning why I wasn't happier because this was my American dream. And I just sat there perplexed, what's going on? And I decided there's got to be something more than this. It feels like fleeting happiness. It was all the things that I thought I wanted. So I went on this deeper journey to then come to realize what I was really seeking was soul fulfillment, not just this fleeting happiness. Getting in touch with that soul, that higher self, that larger part of you, and then starting to dance with that part of you. Because it really is this beautiful dance. And when you start to tune into the guidance that's available, which I don't think I knew if that was, possible before, but then I started reading the books and learning about how to tune into that part of you. Then it becomes this really beautiful, fun game because then you're starting to get what you truly want because your higher self, your soul knows what you want. So it's going to guide you. It can see the full puzzle and we can only see some puzzle pieces, but we can't see the full picture. So she's going to guide you the way that is going to bring you the things that are going to make you truly fulfilled and the happiest.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I feel it's very similar. I think a lot of people go through this when they're young and in their 20s because we grow up where we're told there's external factors saying this is the dream and this is so glamorous. And sometimes you have to experience it to realize, well, that's not actually what I wanted. And that maybe that wasn't really my dream. It was just put there from my external environment. And I love it because it's such a big transition. But again, it's like anything's possible and you can pivot at any point in time when you feel that pull and you start to tune in to that part of you. So now you're into conscious co creation and all of these things that are probably very different from the fashion world. So let's get into that a little bit. What is the most important thing you would say to know around conscious co creation?
So I would say, and this is what I've come to learn, and a little bit of what I was talking about is I used to think that you have to know everything you want and hold it in your mind and visualize it and make it happen, but also open to allow it to come in. But I really thought that you had to have that in mind at all times and keep affirming it. And To some degree, it is true. It's about our thoughts and what we're focused on and moving in that direction. But also, what I've come to learn is this beautiful dance of surrender and letting go of the need, thinking we need to control this whole thing. And
Mhm.
that has been amazing because you don't have to work so hard. It's easier and it's actually pleasurable to let go and let things unfold and let your universe show you things and go on this dance in a not such a go getter, make it happen all the time, controlling kind of way, which I think our society, we've been very conditioned into that and not
Yeah.
having seasons and times to relax and let go and be in winter and reflect and then come back out and blossom. It's different than I used to think.
If I could describe my 2024, I think that would be the word is surrender. That's when it really clicked. You hear that word, you hear detachment, and I don't think I fully understood it until I just completely surrendered. And that's when the best path just unfolds. It's like we don't have to
Yeah.
control every aspect, and that's not fun. There's a
Mm,
way that just feels
exactly.
so much more free and
Mm.
fun. And I think you're right. I think that there's a lot going on in the manifestation space where it's I have to constantly focus. And that's not the case at all. So I love that you brought that up.
And it goes even to as far as saying, if I just focus on raising my vibration, bringing in more light, because that's what we're doing, bringing all these light codes, and it kicks up this old density within us, whatever that density is, emotional baggage, actual physical illness, whatever it is, and it picks these things up for us to then look at and work through and move out of our system, out of our body, out of our field, and then we're able to let more light in. And this is this beautiful evolution. And when we can just focus on raising our vibration, being as present as possible, surrendering to this present moment and the beauty all around it, when we do really do these things, what we truly want, honestly, what I'm coming to discover is it unfolds naturally because our higher self knows what we want, first of all. So that's all categorized. It's there. Don't worry. And we've been filling our vortex, as Abraham Hicks calls it, for so many lifetimes. It's like all that we want. We've got lifetimes to live from the energy that we've accumulated now and can tune into those realities. If that's making sense. There's again, it's great to know what you want and write it down, but we don't need to get too Hitler about that.
Yeah. I always think about dating, which is so funny because I haven't dated in forever. I've been married for a long time, but I think about if you were on a date with someone and it went really well, imagine calling them every single day and being like, "That was so good. Like, we should go out on another date." It's that energy is just, oh, it's such a turn off. So why are we doing that with everything else? Why is it like every day, I have to have this, I want this, I need this, I just want to make sure I've got to visualize
Mhm.
it again and again. And it's that
Good
same
point. Yeah.
underlying energy. And that's what I came to realize. Oh, I don't want to be the clingy where I'm just like trying to force it kind of thing. But there's so much in the manifestation space, like the latest method and technique. I think people feel like I have to do it all or it's not going to manifest. And that's
Mhm.
really not the case.
Yeah.
So if someone's listening, what guidance could you give them if they're like, okay, that sounds good, but how? Like, how do I raise my vibration and how do I
Yeah.
start to become more mindful?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with the one that we were just talking about. That surrender piece goes along too with relaxation. And relaxation's, yeah, cool, spa day or relax on the weekend. But do we know what relaxation really is? This is my question. And I had this beautiful experience not too long ago where I had a friend who does trigger point therapy. And when she pushes on your muscles, it hurts so good a little bit. Sometimes people
Mhm.
think it hurts too much. But she offered actually me a little cannabis this one time before the session. We lived in Denver, totally legal. Anyways, I smoke a little cannabis and I lay there before she comes. And she comes in, and already the cannabis is helping me. She's saying to me, surrender, let go, relax. Actually, she's just saying relax, honestly. Very easy thing to do, just relax. And she kept telling me, keep going, keep relaxing. And I did more and more. And Numa comes in and she starts to push on the points. And it hurts at first because it usually does. But the more I keep relaxing, more she's like, how relaxed can you go? And I'm like, okay, let's see. And I kept going. And it was so beautiful because as she kept pushing, it started to turn to more neutral, like it didn't hurt. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then it started to turn into actual pleasure. So
Yes.
now my whole body is starting to feel pleasure as she's pushing, but then also it's like creating these waves of orgasmic bliss and pleasure and feeling so amazing. And it was wild because it literally went from pain to pleasure just through me relaxing more and more, not just one little like deep breath. It was like, keep going, keep relaxing. So, how surrendered can we be? So, that's number one for raising your vibration. That's huge. Just like letting go and allowing the orgasmic bliss of what this is like real. This is reality. And we restrict ourselves through our own beliefs and can do all the stuff that we've been conditioned and our rigidity and our fear. So if that you make that a daily practice, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think it's our thoughts too of keeping us from relaxing because it's like, I only have 20 minutes and then I have to go do this call or I have to go do this or I
Yeah.
have to go do and that was very much how I was like just very forward thinking that I wasn't really living in the moment, in the present moment. And making that shift, I feel like it's so hard to explain unless you've experienced it, but you can have happiness in any moment. Just like you're saying, you can have pleasure in any moment. It's just you're hanging on to something usually that's either in the past or the future, right? How do you let this go? So, do you have any techniques? What if I'm trying to relax, but I can't?
Yeah. CBD is great. That
Yeah.
definitely makes people relax. And then trying to think of others. Anything like you could rub some kind of cream that has a nice cooling effect. Um, Wrap yourself in a cozy blanket. It's like coddling yourself even as an inner child, like just being super sweet to yourself and being loving to yourself can help.
I
If
think
you
that's important too
Mm,
because I think a lot of times we could be the worst on ourselves and
yeah,
beat ourselves up. And sometimes you have to really make a conscious effort to be kind to yourself if you're not used to that. If you're in this mode of stress or anxiety,
right,
I think that's a great place to start because we could be our own worst critic. And I think that's
right.
where this voice can come in and be like, what are you doing? You don't have time to relax. You don't deserve to relax.
Exactly. Yes. And when we just tell ourselves it's going to be okay, all is
Hmm.
well, these are the ways we can soothe and coo ourselves back to the present moment and into a deeper state of relaxation. Yeah.
Yeah. So, is this kind of what you're talking about in your book when you talk about the difference between an ego desire and divine will?
Mm.
Is that kind of the connection there, like present and one isn't? Can you maybe explain that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. As we know, we've been eh, through mass media, through our society, we become conditioned to believe we want certain things and who we are is the identity of this ego identity we've created. We go around and we think, I want, like I did, I want to work at the most well-known brand in America. Later, I discovered that part of that, at least part of that desire was to get my dad's attention because he would think I was so cool and finally give me a little more attention. I felt like I didn't get enough. And that was my wounding from childhood. So the ego desires will often be loaded with these kind of wounds that then we grasp for trying to manifest these things that are coming from not the most healed place within our whole place. When we surrender to that higher power, divine, the universe, God, whatever word that works for you, your higher self, the higher power, I think I said. So when you surrender to that, the manifestation of what you've put out, the seed of desire is it's whole, it's pure, it's not loaded with that heaviness of the ego desire or the trauma that is wanting to manifest that. Now it's like on a higher plane and you're tuning into a higher outcome of that manifestation. It's more blissful, more beautiful, more joyful, flowier, easier. Whereas when you're manifesting from your ego desires, there's more like soul lessons, right? Because the lesson is to tune in and follow your higher self. This is the game. it's gonna come with more heaviness and some bumpiness. Sometimes they say, like, you get hit on the head by the 2x4 'cause you weren't listening to your higher self, so now you've got a lesson you've gotta deal with, and you're gonna learn, and that's the beauty, so you're never gonna get it wrong. It's just that you can either choose to go beautiful and fun and, lighthearted path by following the guidance, or you can keep choosing from ego desires and face these harder soul lessons on a lower plane, basically. Not better or worse, just on a denser plane, and it won't be as fun. That's
Yeah, that's as they say, there's the easy way or the hard way, and the easy way is so much more fun and
right.
feels so much better. It's would you rather flow or force? So when you surrender, is it just through the surrendering that you'll start to tap into that inner guidance and things are just going to reveal themselves little by little that leads to your manifestation? Because I'm sure people that are listening are going to think, so what? I just don't do anything. Like I don't take any action. What would you say to that?
Yeah. So, yes, let's say the more you surrender, yes, the more you are able to tune in. And that can be through meditation, quiet meditation, quieting the mind, just sitting there. You can do a walking meditation. You can be washing the dishes or in a line. The point is to connect with your higher self, with your soul, and tune in. You can, like I said, you can be doing things even, but it's just about being super present. So if you are washing the dishes, really be with the dishes and notice the suds and be in the moment instead of letting your thoughts run wild. So being present and then having the desire to connect with your higher self or soul. Just that creates sacred space. Now you're in ceremony and you have the desire. Now your higher self's like, oh, okay, she's respecting me. I will meet her. Let's do this. Right? Because it is a
Yeah.
dance. If you
Yeah.
don't respect her or him, your higher self, then they're like, okay, I'll let you do your own thing for a while. But
Yeah. You're going to
more
figure it out
fun.
the hard way.
Yeah, exactly.
I would love to get your input on this because for me, if I am outside, I feel like I could so easily get into that space. For example, when I'm in my backyard, for whatever reason, pulling weeds, if I just start to pull a weed, I know within a few seconds, I am going to be just fully connected to
Mhm.
source. And it's just, I go right into this mindful space. Or if I go for a walk and I don't have my headphones in, I'm just going for a walk outside,
Yeah.
same thing. For some reason, when I'm inside, it's not that easy for me. It can be
Yeah.
really difficult, actually. Is that the case with you? What
Yeah.
is up with that?
Oh, yeah, and it's in my book as well. It talks about
Okay.
that. It says the it's so beautiful, and I wish I could find, but it just says the streets, the cement barricades our connection. While it looks clean and nice, it barricades our connection to that higher power. So getting out in nature is absolutely we've gotta do more of that. Yeah, we get to do more of that. It's so important to connect that in that way, I think.
Yeah, I feel like it's nature has a way of just calming us down naturally and
Right.
helping us become more mindful naturally. And when you were talking about washing the dishes, it made me think of I can't remember his name, but the guy that created the Headspace app. And he
Okay.
went to live with the monks, and he was saying sweeping. They would have me just sweep and sweep, and at the beginning, he thought, "This is so dumb. Why do we keep sweeping? All you
Mhm.
want me to do is sweep. I wanna learn, like, teach me something." And then eventually, he learned it was the sweeping that was helping him just be fully immersed in the present moment because he was doing nothing other than this repetitive sweeping. And I just loved that. I'm like, it's not that you have to work so hard and learn all these things. It's like in the simple things in life where you can find the most beautiful moments and like the most wisdom will just get downloaded because you're just not trying. Again, you're surrendering and you're just flowing.
Totally. And now, too, you're opening to the more subtle energy bodies around you, and you're noticing there's a lot more going on than I realized when I was tuned out and in my thoughts. So now it's like there's just more available. But it says in my book that then you're able to tune into the simple joy of life. Now you can feel that very organic joy bubble up from inside of you because you're in this more present space. And It's like everything's sacred in this space. And because you're seeing it as sacred now, it starts to reveal itself as that. And it's wow, even just touching, I don't know, a pillow or a feather is like, it's more impactful. And
Yeah.
that's what becomes available when we come out of those thoughts and then into this more present moment. Whoa, a new world opens.
This is totally off the subject, but just with what you're talking on, it's making me think of this new thing that I just heard about called neuroarchitecture.
Mm.
And so basically, you know how when you look at ancient cathedrals or like the Roman columns and things like that, that certain architecture that resembles things that are found in nature, like you're mentioning a feather or like you think of a flower, when you use these types of patterns, like the golden ratio that are found in nature, and you put them in architecture, it actually changes the chemistry in your brain. It helps you immediately just calm your emotions
Mm.
and come into what you're talking about, just this present moment. And I just think it's so fascinating because, like I said, I've just recently heard about this, but I'm thinking about all of my experiences of being in a place like that, being outside, but then being in these beautiful buildings and how there is this sort of sense that you just feel good. And then I think about the way our society's created and how every school looks like a prison and
I
it's
know.
just wow, that doesn't feel good at all when you're in there. These buildings feel really cool. And I think it does have to do with these ratios and these mathematical equations that are found in nature. And it's just
Mm.
something within us like recognizes that. And
Yeah.
you get that same feeling of being submersed in nature. I didn't mean to get us sidetracked, but I've just been
Oh,
so
yeah. No, it's
fascinated
good.
with this architecture stuff, and I wish we would get back to that and use that in new building. You
It
don't
sounds
see
so
that
cool.
anymore. So tell me about I know you do retreats and different events. Tell me a little bit about what you do there, what people could expect. Do you have any coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do a yearly retreat. The last 2 years is in Bali. It's called the Wild Spirit Fire Bali Bliss Retreat. And it's based on my book, Wild Spirit Fire Freedom from Fear and Separation. We cover 7 of the chapters, which my book basically brings people on a journey from separation to unity consciousness, and as well as the third dimension and what we're doing in humanity. And it talks about in my book is we're moving into the fifth dimension. So, how do you practically do that? Well, we do it together in the retreat in these interactive and really fun experiences. So we have all sorts of stuff going on, and I think you might have mentioned it's in Ubud, which is a very spiritual place. I've traveled to 28 countries, I think, and it's one of my absolute favorite places. As far as there's just a lot of people who know about energy, a lot of energy healers, ninth generational healers that I've met. It's really
Wow.
fascinating. They can look at your aura, they can tell you what energies you're running. It's really cool. So we go see the high priestess there, the water priestess, and she does a water purification ceremony where she just drenches you in water. The second time I did it, my whole body turned to fire because it was purifying
Really?
my whole field. It was
Wow.
really intense, but didn't hurt like fire.
Yeah.
I felt
Oh, that's pretty crazy. You said that's coming up so people can
it's
they go
coming up.
to get the
We still have
details.
some space. So this is going to be at the end of April 24th through 30th.
Mhm.
A 7-day experience, 6 nights in a luxury hotel, and we're gonna be doing deep transformational work. We're held very well by the ancestors of the land, so at this hotel, they every 6 months, they do a energy clearing and call in all the ancestors, ask them to support those who stay there. They do that, the hotel, which is wild, you would never hear of
Right.
that here in the Western world. And then we've got the galactic, our star families who come in. We were held in a higher vibration for 7 full days. And when people had to go home, they were all crying because no one wanted to leave. It was so beautiful. But also we were purging and doing that heavy lifting work because it's only heavy lifting if you resist. But just let it out. But that's what we do. We purge, we get the density out so that we can then bring in more light and basically be at these higher dimensional spaces, hanging out in these higher spaces. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I'll link that in the show notes for everyone that's interested. And where else can everyone find you? Are you on Instagram? Do you have a website?
Yeah. So the website is daniellekort.com. IG, I think it's Danielle.Kort. Facebook, it should be Danielle Kort. Yeah, those spaces.
I'll link all of that so everyone can check you out and look into your Bali retreat.
Mm.
And thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it too.
All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you back here next time.